My son declared, "I'm canceling your credit card. You're spending too much." I smiled. He didn't know that my late husband left me $750,000. When my son found out, he broke into the house and, good day, dear listeners. It's Clara again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. For 63 years, I had lived a quiet, dignified life. My husband Robert and I built everything from nothing: a modest home in suburban Ohio, 2 children, a garden that bloomed every spring. When Robert passed away 18 months ago after a brief battle with cancer, I thought my world had ended. But I was wrong. My world didn't end then. It ended the day my son Derek told me he was canceling my credit card. Let me back up a little. The warning signs started small, almost invisible. 3 months after Robert's funeral, Derek began calling more frequently. At first, I was grateful. "Just checking in, Mom," he'd say. "Making sure you're eating well." His wife Jennifer would chime in on speakerphone, her voice dripping with concern that felt rehearsed, artificial. "We worry about you all alone in that big house." But the calls shifted. Derek started asking about bills, about my spending, about whether I really needed to buy fresh flowers every week from the farmer's market. "Mom, you're on a fixed income now," he'd remind me, though I'd never discussed my finances with him. Jennifer suggested I cancel my book club membership. "Do you really need to spend $40 a month on books? The library is free." I should have seen it then. Should have recognized the pattern. But grief makes you vulnerable, doesn't it? Makes you doubt yourself. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being frivolous. Robert had always handled the money, and now I was alone. The day everything changed started ordinarily enough. I was in my kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window over the sink, making coffee in Robert's favorite mug, the chipped blue one he'd refused to throw away for 30 years. My phone rang. Derek. "Mom, we need to talk." His voice was clipped, businesslike. "I've been monitoring your credit card statements." Monitoring? My hand froze on the coffee pot. "I'm sorry, what?" "Jennifer and I are concerned. You spent $300 at Nordstrom last month." $300, Mom? On what? You barely leave the house." I had bought a dress for my friend Patricia's birthday dinner. A simple navy dress because all my clothes reminded me of Robert, of the life we'd shared. Was that a crime? "Derek, I don't understand why you're—" "And $200 at that Italian restaurant? Mom, that's irresponsible. You're 72 years old. You need to be saving money, not throwing it away." 72. He made it sound like I was ancient, incompetent. My throat tightened. I took Patricia and her daughter to dinner. It was a special occasion. Well, those special occasions need to stop. His voice hardened. "I'm canceling your credit card, effective immediately. Jennifer and I will give you a prepaid card with a monthly limit. $200 should be more than enough for groceries and essentials." The world tilted. $200? For an entire month? "You can't do that," I whispered. "That's my card, my account." "Actually, Mom, I can. I added myself as an authorized user 6 months ago when you were so upset about Dad. Remember? You signed the papers. I'm doing this for your own good. You're spending too much, and we can't let you drain your savings." I remembered those papers. Derek had brought them over with dinner, said it was just so he could help me if there was an emergency. I'd signed them without reading, my eyes still swollen from crying over Robert's hospital bills. "Derek, please? This is final, Mom. The card will be deactivated by tomorrow morning. We'll drop off the prepaid card this weekend." He hung up. I stood there in my kitchen, Robert's mug warm in my hands, and something inside me shifted. Drain my savings? What savings did Derek think I had? Robert's life insurance had covered the funeral costs and a few months of bills, but Derek couldn't know about the rest. He didn't know that Robert, my careful, quiet husband, had been investing for 40 years. He didn't know about the portfolio Robert's financial advisor had transferred into my name alone, with explicit instructions that it was mine and mine only. Derek didn't know I had $750,000 sitting in an account at First National Bank. And as I stood there, phone still in my hand, I smiled. The smile faded quickly. I set down the mug and walked to my dining room table, legs shaking. What had just happened? My own son, my firstborn, the boy I'd nursed through pneumonia at age 6, the young man I'd helped through college, had just cut off my financial independence like I was a child who couldn't be trusted with an allowance. I pulled out my laptop, the one Robert had bought me 2 years ago, and logged into my bank accounts. There it was, the joint checking account Derek now apparently controlled, with $800 in it. And then, in a separate browser window, my private account at First National. $753,247.89 to be exact. Money Derek knew nothing about. Robert had been adamant about this. Evelyn, he'd said during one of our last coherent conversations, morphine clouding his eyes but his mind still sharp. This money is yours, not the kids, not anyone else's. I worked my whole life so you could be comfortable, independent. Promise me you won't let anyone tell you what to do with it. I'd promised, and I'd kept it secret, just as Robert had advised. People treat you differently when they know you have money, he'd warned, even family, especially family. How right he'd been. I spent the next hour reviewing my credit card statements, the ones Derek had apparently been monitoring. $300 at Nordstrom, yes, one dress. $200 at the Italian restaurant, dinner for 3 people. $75 at the bookstore, 4 books and a journal. $40 at the farmer's market, fresh produce and those flowers Derek thought were wasteful. This was wasteful? This was irresponsible? I was living modestly, carefully, treating myself occasionally to small comforts after watching my husband waste away in a hospital bed. And my son thought I needed to be controlled. No. This wasn't about money. This was about power. The realization hit me like cold water. Derek didn't care about my financial security. He cared about control. And if he was willing to take control now, over what he thought was a nearly empty checking account, what would he do if he knew about the $750,000? My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. I needed advice. Real advice. I called Patricia. We'd been friends for 40 years since our sons played Little League together. She answered on the second ring. Evie, what's wrong? You sound upset. I told her everything. Derek's call, the canceled card, the authorized user situation. I didn't mention the inheritance. Not yet. Even with Patricia, Robert's voice echoed in my mind. Be careful. Be smart. That bastard, Patricia breathed. Evie, you need to get him off that account immediately. This is financial abuse. Do you understand? This is a form of elder abuse. Elder abuse. The words made my stomach turn. But he's my son. I don't care if he's the Pope. He has no right to control your money, your spending, your life. You're 72, not 92, and even if you were 92, you're completely competent. You need to call the bank first thing Monday morning. Monday was 3 days away. I looked at the calendar on my refrigerator. Saturday, October 14th. By Monday, Derek would have already deactivated my card. Patricia, there's something else. I paused, then decided to trust her. Robert left me money. A lot of money. Derek doesn't know? Silence. Then, how much, Evie? $750,000. Patricia's sharp intake of breath was audible. Oh, honey, you can't let Derek find out. Not now. Not when he's already showing his true colors. Listen to me carefully. You need a lawyer. You need to protect yourself, and you need to do it fast. She was right. Fear coursed through me. Fear of confronting Derek. Fear of what this would do to our relationship. Fear of being alone without any family at all. My daughter, Michelle, lived in Seattle with her own family. We talked monthly, but she was busy, distant. Derek was the one who'd stayed local, and I'd been grateful. But gratitude was a trap, wasn't it? I straightened my spine. Robert hadn't built that nest egg so I could be controlled and diminished in my final years. He'd built it so I could be free. You're right, I told Patricia. I need a lawyer. Do you know anyone? I know exactly who you need, Thomas Crawford. He handled my sister's estate planning. He's sharp, discreet, and he doesn't tolerate family members who take advantage of seniors. I'll text you his number. The text came through 30 seconds later. I stared at the number on my screen. This was it, the first step. Once I called that lawyer, there was no going back. This would become real. The conflict with Derek would escalate. But what choice did I have? Roll over and let him control me? Let him dictate how I spent my own money, lived my own life? I took a deep breath and dialed. Thomas Crawford's office was in a renovated Victorian house downtown, all dark wood and leather furniture that smelled of old books and coffee. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I sat across from him, hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 50, with silver threading through dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. He'd listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking occasional notes on a yellow legal pad. Mrs. Palmer, he said when I'd finished, I want to be very clear about something. What your son has done is legally questionable and ethically reprehensible. You signed those authorization papers under duress and false pretenses. We can fix this. How? My voice came out smaller than I intended. First, we immediately remove him as an authorized user. I'll call the bank myself. I have contacts there. Second, we revoke any power of attorney documents you may have signed. Third, and this is crucial, we establish ironclad documentation that you are of sound mind and body, making your own financial decisions. That means a cognitive assessment from a physician, witnessed and notarized documents, the works. And Derek, when he finds out? Thomas leaned forward. He'll be angry. But Mrs. Palmer, he has no legal leg to stand on. You're competent. It's your money. He can be as angry as he wants. It doesn't change the facts. 2 hours later, I walked out of that office with a plan. Thomas had already called the bank. Derek's authorization was being revoked. The credit card he'd canceled, reactivated, with Derek's access completely removed. The prepaid card he'd promised to bring me? I wouldn't need it. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt sick. That evening, Derek called. I was in my garden, deadheading roses in the fading October light, when my phone buzzed. Mom? What the hell did you do? My heart hammered. Hello, Derek. Don't hello, Derek me. I just got a call from the bank. They said you removed my authorization. They said you reactivated your card. Mom, we talked about this. You can't be trusted with unlimited access to money. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, Derek. My voice was steady, cold. It didn't sound like me. You had no right to cancel my card. You had no right to monitor my spending. I'm your mother, not your child. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From buying a dress? From taking my friend to dinner? Derek, I'm 72 years old, not senile. Then why are you acting like this? His voice rose, frustrated. Mom, ever since Dad died, you've been different. Making impulsive decisions, spending money. I bought one dress and had one dinner out. That's not impulsive. That's living. Silence. Then, in a different tone, calculating, careful. Mom, exactly how much money do you have? Because Dad's life insurance couldn't have been that much, and your Social Security doesn't cover. There it was. The real question. That's none of your business, Derek. I'm your son. Of course it's my business. If you're struggling financially. I'm not struggling. Then how are you paying your bills? The house, the utilities, the property taxes? Mom, I'm trying to help you, but you won't let me in. What are you hiding? My hands clenched around the phone. What was I hiding? The audacity of the question stunned me. I'm not hiding anything. I'm simply maintaining boundaries that you've chosen to violate. Boundaries? Jesus, Mom, who's been talking to you? That friend of yours, Patricia. Has she been filling your head with... Goodbye, Derek. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. He called back immediately. I declined the call. He called again. Again, I declined. Then the text started. Mom, please, we need to talk about this. You're being manipulated, can't you see that? I'm coming over, we need to discuss this in person. Mom, answer me. I turned off my phone and went inside. The house felt too quiet, too empty. I locked the doors, something I rarely did, and sat in Robert's armchair, the worn leather still holding the faint scent of his cologne. Was I making a mistake? Was I destroying my relationship with my son over money? No. The answer came clearly, in Robert's voice in my memory. This isn't about money, Evie. It's about respect, about your right to live your own life. The next morning, I found out exactly how far Derek was willing to go. I was making breakfast when I heard the key in the lock. My spare key, the one I'd given Derek years ago for emergencies. The door opened and Derek walked in, Jennifer right behind him. I stood in my kitchen, spatula in hand, and stared at my son. We need to talk, he said. Now. Get out of my house. Derek blinked, as if I'd spoken a foreign language. Jennifer's mouth fell open. They stood in my entryway, Derek still holding his key, and for a moment, no one moved. Mom, don't be dramatic, Derek finally said, pocketing the key. We came to talk sense into you. I said, get out. My voice was louder now, stronger. You don't walk into my home uninvited. You don't use that key unless there's an emergency. This is an emergency, Jennifer snapped. She'd never spoken to me like that before. Her mask of sweet concern completely gone. You're clearly not capable of making rational decisions. Derek told me what you did at the bank. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for him? Humiliating for him? I set down the spatula, my breakfast forgotten. He canceled my credit card. He tried to control my spending like I was a delinquent teenager. Because you are spending irresponsibly. Jennifer moved closer, her designer handbag swinging on her arm, a bag that cost more than my entire month's irresponsible spending. Derek showed me the statements. 300 here, 200 there. You're on a fixed income. You need to be saving, not squandering. How dare you? The words came out quietly, but they stopped her mid-sentence. How dare you come into my home and lecture me about my money? Derek stepped between us. Mom, please, let's all calm down. Jen, maybe you should wait in the car. No. Jennifer crossed her arms. I'm staying. Someone needs to talk sense into her. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. When had he become this person? This stranger who thought he had the right to barge into my home, bring his wife to gang up on me, treat me like I was incompetent? Derek, I said carefully, I'm going to ask you one more time. Leave. Now. Both of you. Not until you explain what's going on. He pulled out his phone, swiped a few times, then held it up to me. The bank wouldn't give me details, but they confirmed you have other accounts I didn't know about. Mom, where did you get that money? Did someone scam you? Did you take out a loan? So that's what he thought, that I was either a victim or a fool. The money is none of your concern. It is my concern if you're being taken advantage of. Mom, I'm trying to protect you. By controlling me? By monitoring my spending? By walking into my home without permission? I have a key, which I'm taking back right now. I held out my hand. Derek's face flushed red. You're being ridiculous. What if there's an emergency? What if you fall and I need to get in? Then you can call 911 like any other person would. I'm not any other person. I'm your son. Then act like it, my voice cracked. Act like a son who respects his mother, who trusts her judgment, who doesn't treat her like a senile child. Jennifer laughed. Actually laughed. Respect? You want respect? You've been lying to us about your finances. You've been sneaking around behind Derek's back. What kind of mother does that? Something cold settled in my chest. I want both of you to leave. Now, or what? Jennifer's eyes glittered. You'll call the police on your own son? Go ahead. Tell them how you've been hiding money, acting paranoid, refusing family help. Let's see who they believe, a concerned son or a confused old woman. The threat was clear. They would paint me as mentally unfit. They would twist this into a story of a grieving widow losing her grip on reality. But they didn't know about Thomas Crawford. They didn't know I'd already documented my competency. Derek, I said quietly, if you don't leave right now, I will call the police, and I will report this as trespassing and harassment. I have a lawyer. I have documentation of everything you've done, so you have a choice. Leave now with some dignity or leave in handcuffs. What's it going to be? Derek stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Jennifer grabbed his arm. She's bluffing, Jennifer hissed. She doesn't have a lawyer. Look at her, she's terrified. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. Held Derek's gaze as it started to ring. Wait! Derek's hand shot out. Okay, we're leaving. But Mom, this isn't over. We're going to figure out what's going on with you. We're going to help you whether you want it or not. They left. I locked the door behind them, then slid down to sit on the floor, my whole body shaking. The 911 operator was asking if I was there, if I needed help. I hung up and sat there in my entryway, tears finally coming. What had I done? I'd just threatened to have my own son arrested. But what choice did he give me? I called Thomas Crawford, told him everything. Mrs. Palmer, I need you to listen carefully. Change your locks today, all of them. And I'm filing for a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning. Your son just committed trespassing and made threats. We're documenting all of this. The next 3 days were a blur. New locks installed by a locksmith, Patricia recommended. A formal letter from Thomas to Derek, warning him to cease all contact. Security cameras installed at my front and back doors. Another suggestion from Patricia, who'd become my daily check-in, my anchor. I spent those days in a haze of fear and exhaustion, jumping at every sound, barely sleeping. I'd stood up to Derek, yes, but at what cost? By Thursday evening, I felt hollowed out, fragile. I made myself tea and sat in the garden, wrapped in Robert's old cardigan, and let myself grieve. Not just for Robert anymore, but for the son I thought I had, for the family I thought we were. Friday afternoon, a flower delivery arrived. 24 white roses in a crystal vase. The card read, Mom, I'm sorry. Can we please talk? Love, Derek. I stared at those roses for a long time. White roses, the peace offering, the apology. Part of me wanted desperately to believe it, to call Derek, to smooth this over, to have my son back. But I'd lived 72 years. I knew the difference between genuine remorse and manipulation. I called Patricia. He sent flowers. Of course he did. Her voice was dry. What did the card say? I read it to her. Notice anything missing? I looked at the card again. What do you mean? He says he's sorry. But sorry for what? He doesn't say. He doesn't acknowledge what he did wrong. He just wants to talk, which means he wants another chance to control the narrative. She was right. A real apology would have been specific. I'm sorry for invading your privacy. I'm sorry for trying to control your finances. I'm sorry for entering your home without permission. This was just a strategic retreat. What should I do? Nothing. Don't respond. Let him wonder. And Evie, those flowers? Throw them out. Every time you look at them, they'll make you doubt yourself. That's their purpose. I took the roses to my neighbor's house and gave them to her daughter, who was delighted. They're beautiful, Mrs. Palmer. Are you sure? Completely sure, sweetie. Walking back to my house, I felt lighter, clearer. Saturday morning brought an email from my daughter Michelle in Seattle. The subject line read, "Mom, what's going on?" My stomach dropped. Derek had gotten to her. "Mom, Derek called me very upset. He says you've been acting strange since Dad died, that you're hiding money, and you've hired a lawyer to keep him out of your life. He's really worried about you. I'm worried too. Can we please talk? Call me when you get this. Love, Michelle." I sat at my kitchen table, reading the email 3 times. So this was Derek's next move: recruiting Michelle, presenting himself as the concerned son, painting me as the unstable widow. I called Michelle immediately. She answered, her voice cautious. "Mom? Michelle, honey, I need you to hear my side of this story." I told her everything: the canceled credit card, Derek's monitoring of my spending, the break-in, the threats. I told her about the inheritance, Robert's careful planning to ensure I'd be independent and comfortable. Silence on the other end. Then, "Mom, Derek said you claimed to have hundreds of thousands of dollars. He thought someone had scammed you." "No one scammed me. Your father invested wisely for 40 years. He left me $750,000. I have documentation from the financial advisor, from the bank, from my lawyer. I'm not confused, Michelle. I'm not being taken advantage of. I'm simply refusing to let your brother control my life." More silence. "Why didn't you tell us about the money?" "Because your father advised me not to. He said people treat you differently when they know you have money, even family." I paused. "Especially family. He was right." "Mom," Michelle's voice softened. "Derek told me you threatened to have him arrested." "Because he broke into my house and threatened me. Yes, I called 911. Wouldn't you?" I heard her breath catch. "He broke in?" "He used his emergency key without permission and brought Jennifer. They cornered me in my own kitchen, told me I was incompetent, threatened to have me declared mentally unfit. Michelle, I was terrified." "Oh my God, Mom, I didn't know. Derek made it sound like you were just being paranoid and difficult." "I'm sure he did." We talked for another hour. I sent her Thomas Crawford's contact information, the documentation of my cognitive assessment, copies of the bank statements. Everything. By the end of the call, Michelle was crying. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have called you first before believing Derek's version. It's just, he sounded so convincing." "That's what manipulators do, honey. They're very convincing." "Do you want me to come visit? I can fly out next weekend." The offer made my throat tight. "I'd love that. But Michelle, only if you want to. Not because you're worried I'm losing my mind." "I want to, Mom. I miss you. And I think we all need to talk. Face to face." After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. That afternoon, Patricia came over with her sister Helen, who I'd met a few times over the years. We sat in my living room drinking tea, and Helen, a retired social worker, gave me advice I desperately needed. "Evelyn, what you're experiencing is a form of elder abuse called financial exploitation. It's extremely common, and it's often perpetrated by adult children who convince themselves they're acting in their parents' best interest. But let me be clear. You did nothing wrong. You set a boundary. You protected yourself. That takes tremendous courage." "It doesn't feel like courage," I admitted. "It feels like I'm destroying my family." "No, honey." Helen leaned forward, her eyes kind but firm. "Derek destroyed the family relationship when he decided to control you instead of respect you. You're just refusing to participate in that dynamic. There's a difference." Patricia squeezed my hand. "You're not alone in this, Evie. You have us. You have Michelle. You have your lawyer. Derek wants you isolated and doubting yourself. Don't give him that power." For the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't feel like a frightened, confused old woman. I felt like myself again. Evelyn Palmer, who'd raised 2 children, nursed a husband through cancer, managed a household for 50 years. I'd been strong before. I could be strong again. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Sunday afternoon, Derek's car pulled into my driveway. I watched from my living room window, my new security cameras recording everything. He was alone this time, no Jennifer. He looked tired, defeated almost, as he walked slowly to my front door. The doorbell rang. I didn't answer. He knocked. "Mom? Please, I know you're home. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I stood on the other side of the door, silent. "Mom, I'm sorry. Really sorry. I handled everything wrong. I was scared after Dad died. Scared of losing you, too. Scared you'd be taken advantage of. I went about it all wrong. Please, can we just talk?" The words sounded right. They sounded sincere. But I remembered Patricia's advice. Let him wonder. Don't engage. "I'll leave if you want me to," Derek continued, his voice catching. "But Mom, I'm your son. We've never gone this long without speaking. It's killing me. Please." My hand moved toward the doorknob. Stopped. 5 minutes of silence passed. Then I heard his footsteps retreating, his car door closing, the engine starting. I watched him drive away, and only then did I allow myself to breathe. See? Wednesday brought a different approach. Derek and Jennifer appeared on my doorstep together, their expressions carefully arranged into masks of concern and reconciliation. I watched them on my security camera footage from my phone. Didn't answer the door. Derek spoke into the camera. "Mom, we brought lunch. Your favorite, chicken salad from Brunetti's. We thought maybe we could sit down, all of us, and start fresh. No arguments, no accusations. Just family." Jennifer held up the takeout bag, smiling warmly at the camera. The performance was almost impressive. They waited 20 minutes, knocking occasionally, before leaving the food on my doorstep and departing. I let the food sit there for an hour, watching the camera feed, before taking it directly to the trash. I wouldn't eat anything they brought me. Call it paranoia if you want. I called it caution. That evening, Derek tried a new tactic. He sent a long text message. "Mom, I've been doing a lot of thinking and soul-searching. I talked to a therapist about our situation. Yes, I'm in therapy now, trying to work through my control issues. She helped me see that my fear of losing you made me act in ways that were controlling and disrespectful. I violated your boundaries. I treated you like you were incapable when you're one of the strongest, smartest people I know. I'm genuinely sorry. Not sorry that I got caught or sorry that you're angry. Sorry for what I did, for how I made you feel. You deserve better from me. I know I need to earn back your trust, and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. Can we please meet somewhere neutral? A coffee shop? The park? Somewhere you feel safe? I just want a chance to apologize in person and hear what you need from me to make this right. I love you, Mom. Please. Derek." I read it 3 times. This was better, more specific, acknowledging actual wrongdoing, mentioning therapy. Could people change this quickly? Was it possible he'd genuinely reflected and grown? I called Thomas Crawford. "Read it to me," he said. I did. It's well crafted. Hits all the right notes. But Mrs. Palmer, notice the end. He wants to meet. He wants you to tell him what you need from him. This is still about control. He's just switching tactics from force to manipulation. Maybe he's sincere. Maybe. But you're under no obligation to find out. The restraining order hearing is in 3 days. Let's get through that first. Then, if you want to consider reconciliation, we do it on your terms, with safeguards in place. I didn't respond to Derek's text. Thursday morning, they showed up again. This time, I was in my garden and didn't see them approach. I looked up from my roses to find Derek and Jennifer standing on my lawn. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. "You need to leave. Now. Mom, please." Derek took a step closer. We've been patient, we've been respectful, but this has gone on long enough. We need to talk about your finances. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Jennifer's mask finally slipped completely. You have $750,000 that rightfully should be split between Derek and Michelle. That money should be securing your future, not sitting in an account for you to waste on dresses and dinners. You're being selfish and short-sighted, and frankly, we're worried about your judgment. There it was. The truth. They didn't care about protecting me. They cared about the money they thought they deserved. That money is mine, I said coldly. Robert left it to me, not to you, not to anyone else. Me. Dad would have wanted us to be taken care of, Derek said. He would have wanted that money to go to his grandchildren's college funds, to our futures. Your father left you both generous inheritance checks when he died. $25,000 each. What you did with that money is your business, but don't pretend he didn't provide for you. Jennifer's face flushed. 25,000? That's nothing compared to what you're sitting on. It's what Robert decided was appropriate. And it's done. This conversation is over. Leave my property or I'm calling the police. Derek's expression hardened. You're making a huge mistake, Mom. When you're older, when you really need help, don't expect us to be there. You're choosing money over family. No, Derek, you did that. The moment you tried to control me instead of respect me. Now leave. They left, but Jennifer's parting words drifted back. We'll see what the court says about your independence. I stood in my garden, shaking, watching them drive away. Fear coursed through me. What did she mean? What the court would say? Were they planning to sue me? To challenge my competency legally? But underneath the fear, something else burned. Resolve. They'd shown their true faces now. No more pretense of concern. Just greed and entitlement. I went inside and called Thomas. They just threatened legal action, I told him. Good, he said calmly. Let them try. We have everything documented. Your cognitive assessment, your financial records, witnesses to their harassment. Mrs. Palmer, they have no case. None. They're bluffing because they've lost control and they're desperate. That night, I didn't sleep well. But it wasn't from doubt. It was from anticipation. The restraining order hearing was in 2 days. And I was ready. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and the judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a bun, sat reviewing documents at her bench. Thomas sat beside me, his presence steady and reassuring. Across the aisle, Derek and Jennifer sat with their lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit who looked uncomfortable. Michelle had flown in the night before and sat in the gallery behind me, her hand on my shoulder, as we waited for the proceedings to begin. All rise, the bailiff announced. Judge Margaret Stevenson looked up, surveyed the room, and gestured for us to sit. This is a hearing for a restraining order petition filed by Evelyn Palmer against her son, Derek Palmer, and daughter-in-law, Jennifer Palmer. Let's begin. Mr. Crawford, you may present your case. Thomas stood, calm and professional. Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Palmer is a 72-year-old widow who, 18 months ago, lost her husband of 50 years. In the months following his death, her son, Derek Palmer, systematically attempted to gain control of her finances, her autonomy, and her life. This culminated in unauthorized entry to her home, threats, and harassment. He presented the evidence methodically, the documentation of Derek adding himself as an authorized user on my credit card under false pretenses, the bank records showing the canceled card and subsequent restoration, the security camera footage of Derek and Jennifer entering my home uninvited and refusing to leave, the text messages and emails showing the pattern of manipulation and threats. Judge Stevenson reviewed each piece in silence, her expression unreadable. When Thomas finished, she turned to Derek's attorney. Counselor, your response? The young lawyer stood, clearing his throat. Your Honor, my client's actions, while perhaps misguided, came from a place of genuine concern. Mrs. Palmer has exhibited signs of confusion and poor judgment since her husband's death. Mr. Palmer was simply trying to protect his mother from financial exploitation. By exploiting her himself? Thomas interrupted. Your Honor, I have here a cognitive assessment conducted by Dr. Rachel Kim, a board-certified neurologist, which conclusively demonstrates that Mrs. Palmer is of sound mind, capable of managing her own affairs, and shows no signs of cognitive decline whatsoever. He handed the document to the judge. She read it carefully, then looked directly at me. Mrs. Palmer, would you like to address the court? I stood, my legs steadier than I'd expected. Yes, Your Honor. Please proceed. I took a breath. My son seems to believe that being widowed at 72 makes me incompetent. That grieving my husband means I can't be trusted to buy a dress or take a friend to dinner. The truth is, my husband left me financially secure specifically so I could maintain my independence and dignity. Derek didn't know about this money, and when he found out I had financial resources he couldn't control, he became angry and desperate. How much money are we talking about, Mrs. Palmer? Judge Stevenson asked. $750,000, Your Honor, in an account solely in my name, as per my late husband's explicit wishes. Derek's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, this is exactly the concern. That's a substantial sum of money, and Mrs. Palmer has every right to that money. The judge cut him off sharply. Unless you're suggesting she's incompetent to manage her own affairs, do you have any evidence of incompetency? Well, no direct evidence, but then sit down, counselor. He sat. Judge Stevenson turned her attention to Derek. Mr. Palmer, stand up, please. Derek rose, his face pale. Do you have medical training? No, Your Honor. Are you a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist? No, ma'am. Yet you took it upon yourself to determine that your mother was incompetent? To cancel her credit card, monitor her spending, and attempt to restrict her financial freedom? I was trying to help. By entering her home without permission, after she'd explicitly told you to leave? By bringing your wife to gang up on her? By threatening her with legal action if she didn't comply with your demands? Derek's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. The judge looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Palmer, the younger Mrs. Palmer, do you have anything to say? Jennifer stood, her composure cracking. Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a family matter. Evelyn is sitting on a fortune while Derek and we have children, college funds to think about. Robert was Derek's father. That money should what? Judge Stevenson's voice was ice. Should be yours? The entitlement in this courtroom is stunning. Mrs. Evelyn Palmer's late husband left that money to her, not to you, not to your children, to his wife who he loved and wanted to protect. And from what I can see, he had excellent reason to protect her from you. Jennifer sat down abruptly, her face scarlet. The judge turned back to her documents, made some notes, then looked up. I'm granting the restraining order. Derek Palmer and Jennifer Palmer are to maintain a distance of no less than 500 feet from Evelyn Palmer, her residence, and her vehicle. No contact, direct or indirect, except through attorneys. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Furthermore, I'm ordering both of you to attend a family counseling program focused on elder abuse prevention, and you'll provide proof of completion to this court within 90 days. She banged her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. Derek stood frozen as the judge left. Then he turned to look at me, his face a mixture of shock, anger, and something that might have been shame. I met his gaze steadily, coldly. I felt no triumph, only sadness for the relationship we'd lost and clarity about the protection I'd needed. Thomas gathered his documents. Let's go, Mrs. Palmer. Michelle hugged me in the hallway outside. Mom, I'm so proud of you. I hugged her back, finally letting myself feel the relief, the exhaustion, the weight of what had just happened. I'd won. But God, what a hollow victory it felt like. 2 weeks after the restraining order, I received a certified letter at my door. My hands shook as I signed for it. Had Derek found some new legal angle? Some way to continue the fight? But when I opened it, the letterhead belonged to Derek and Jennifer's bank, not their attorney. It was a foreclosure notice on their house, I sat down hard on my front porch steps, reading it 3 times. They were 4 months behind on their mortgage. The bank was initiating foreclosure proceedings. They had 60 days to catch up on payments or lose their home. 4 months. That meant they'd been struggling financially since before Robert died. Since before Derek had started his campaign to control my money. It wasn't about protecting me at all. It never had been. They'd needed money, desperately, and saw Robert's death as an opportunity. I should have felt satisfaction, some kind of vindication. Instead, I felt sick. I called Michelle that evening. "Did you know about Derek's financial situation?" Silence. Then, "I knew they were struggling. Derek called me about 6 months ago, asked if I could loan them $20,000. Said they'd had some unexpected expenses, that Jennifer had lost her job. I told him I couldn't. We'd just bought our house and were stretched thin ourselves." "Jennifer lost her job?" "Yeah, she got fired from that marketing company. Derek didn't tell you?" "He didn't tell me anything real, just lies and manipulation." Michelle sighed. "Mom, I think that's why he went after your money so hard. They're drowning in debt. He probably saw Dad's death and thought you'd be vulnerable, thought he could convince you to help them." The pieces clicked into place. The designer handbag Jennifer had carried when they'd confronted me in my kitchen, probably bought on credit cards they couldn't pay off. Derek's expensive car. Their house in the prestigious neighborhood. They'd been living beyond their means, and when it all came crashing down, they'd decided I should pay for their mistakes. A week later, Thomas called. "Mrs. Palmer, I thought you should know. Derek and Jennifer's attorney contacted me. They want to settle." "Settle what? The restraining order?" "No, that stands. They want to propose a family agreement. In exchange for dropping all future claims against you or your estate, they're asking for a one-time payment of $50,000. I laughed. Actually laughed. "They want me to pay them to leave me alone?" "Essentially, yes." "Absolutely not." "I thought you'd say that. I'll inform their counsel." But the requests didn't stop. Over the next month, the amount dropped. 40,000. 30,000. 25,000. Each time, Thomas relayed the offer. Each time, I refused. "They're desperate," Thomas explained after the 5th offer, now down to 15,000. "The foreclosure is proceeding. Jennifer apparently hasn't found new employment. They're hemorrhaging money, and they see you as their only lifeline." "I'm not their lifeline. I'm the mother Derek tried to control and manipulate." "I know, I'm just explaining their thinking. The latest offer came with a letter from Derek. Do you want me to read it?" "No, shred it." But 3 days later, I got a call from Michelle. "Mom, Derek called me. He's crying, begging me to convince you to help them. They're losing the house. Their kids might have to change schools. He says he's sorry, that he knows he messed up, but please, they're desperate. Michelle, do you think I should give them money?" Long pause. "No. I think Derek made his choices, and those choices have consequences. But Mom, he's still my brother. It's hard to watch him fall apart." "I know, sweetheart. It's hard for me too. But if I give in now, what does that teach him? That he can abuse me, threaten me, try to steal from me, and as long as he cries hard enough, I'll rescue him. What kind of lesson is that?" "You're right. I know you're right. It just hurts." "It does hurt. That's the price of doing the right thing sometimes." The foreclosure went through in late December. Derek and Jennifer lost their house. According to Michelle, they moved into a small rental apartment across town. Jennifer finally found work as a receptionist, making a fraction of what she'd earned before. Derek took a second job driving for a rideshare company on weekends. I heard all this secondhand. I never reached out, never offered help, never softened. Some people said I was cruel. Patricia's sister Helen told me about whispers at church, about the wealthy widow who let her own son lose his home. Some people avoided my eyes at the grocery store. I held my head high. Those people didn't know the truth. They didn't know about the break-in, the threats, the manipulation. They saw a son in need and a mother refusing to help. They didn't see the abuse. One afternoon in January, I ran into Derek at the bank. We both froze. He looked thin, tired, older than his 47 years. For a moment, I saw the little boy who'd climbed into my lap when he had nightmares, the young man who'd called me every Sunday from college, the son I'd loved unconditionally. But I also saw the man who'd tried to control me, who'd valued money over my dignity, who'd broken into my home and threatened me. "Mom," he said quietly. I walked past him without a word. He didn't follow. That evening, alone in my house, I cried. For the relationship that was gone. For the son who'd chosen greed over love. For the family we'd never be again. But I didn't regret my choice. Not for 1 second. Spring arrived. And with it, new life in my garden. I hired a landscaper, a kind man named Marcus who reminded me a bit of Robert. Always patient, always willing to explain his choices. Together, we planned a complete garden renovation. A rose arbor, a small fountain, beds of perennials that would bloom from April through October. "This will be beautiful, Mrs. Palmer," Marcus said. "A real sanctuary." That's exactly what I wanted, a sanctuary, a place of peace after the storm. I spent Robert's money, my money, thoughtfully, but without guilt. I took Patricia and Helen to New York for a weekend, saw 2 Broadway shows. I bought myself a new wardrobe, joined a watercolor painting class, and discovered I had a talent for it. "You're blooming," Patricia said one afternoon in my new garden. "It's like you're becoming yourself again." She was right. For years, I'd been Robert's wife, Derek and Michelle's mother. But now, I was just Evelyn. And Evelyn was discovering who she wanted to be. Michelle visited frequently, once a month, flying in for long weekends. We grew close in a way we'd never been before. "Mom," she said during one visit, "I'm sorry I didn't see what Derek was doing earlier. You're here now, that's what matters. Do you ever think about forgiving him?" I considered the question. I think about it. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I can forgive Derek for his own peace, but that doesn't mean I'll let him back into my life. He showed me who he is. I believe him. Through mutual friends, I heard updates about Derek and Jennifer. The news was never good. Jennifer's receptionist job barely covered basics. Derek worked constantly between his regular job and ride-share driving, but they were drowning in debt. Their kids had to transfer to public school. One of their cars was repossessed. Jennifer told anyone who'd listened that I was terrible, that I'd abandoned my son. Some people believed her. I lost a few acquaintances. But I gained something more valuable: self-respect. Derek reached out to Michelle several times, begging her to convince me to help them. Michelle refused. "He needs to learn, Mom," she told me. "He needs to hit rock bottom before he can rebuild himself into someone decent." In June, I learned Derek and Jennifer were separating. Jennifer filed for divorce, claiming Derek's financial mismanagement had destroyed their family. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd been right there demanding my money, but now positioned herself as his victim. Derek moved into an even smaller apartment alone. According to Michelle, he looked broken. Part of me felt sympathy, but mostly I felt free. One evening in July, I hosted a dinner party. Patricia, Helen, Marcus, friends from my painting class, and Michelle sat in my beautiful garden under string lights, eating catered food, drinking wine, laughing. "A toast," Patricia said, raising her glass. "To Evelyn, who taught us all what it means to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard." Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around at these people, my chosen family, and felt overwhelming gratitude. This was the life Robert had wanted for me. Not controlled by fear, not diminished by manipulation, but free, joyful, surrounded by people who respected me. "Thank you," I said softly, "for seeing me through the worst time of my life." "You did the hard part, Evie," Helen said. "We just cheered you on." That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in my garden listening to the fountain and crickets. I thought about Derek in his tiny apartment, facing consequences. I thought about Jennifer, bitter and broke. I thought about the grandchildren I might never know, and I felt at peace. I'd made the right choice. I'd protected myself. I'd built a life worth living. and I wasn't finished yet. Looking back now, I understand the lessons my ordeal taught me. Family doesn't give you the right to abuse. Love doesn't mean accepting manipulation. And protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I learned that grief makes us vulnerable, but it doesn't make us incompetent. That money reveals character rather than changing it. That the people who truly love you respect your boundaries. Most importantly, I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. So I ask you, what would you have done in my place? Would you have stood firm or given in? If my story resonated with you, please share it. Comment below with your thoughts. And remember, you deserve respect, dignity, and independence, no matter your age. Thank you for listening to my story.